Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Career Talk. My name is Nohan Sharma and I'm a senior consultant based in Netherlands. And at Career Talk, we invite industry experts from around the world to share their real experience with all of us. And today we are going to discuss Agile Project Manager interview questions shared by our group members who recently attended an interview at Infosys. And to help us, we are glad to have Sujata Mukherjee with us, who has over 1.5 decade of experience in IT industry. She is currently working as a program manager and also hold PGMP and PMP certifications. But friends, before we start, I have a small request. If you find this session helpful, which I am sure you will, please smash that like button. And friends, if you are a project manager and don't want to miss the latest real project manager interview questions, please subscribe to our channel. Please check out the project interview playlist, which has more than 500 plus interview questions from various IT companies around the world. We have tons of valuable content for project managers. All right, let's get started. Hello, Sujata. Thank you for joining us today. Sujata, over to you.
Hi, Sunan, and hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be part of this podcast today. And I have been also discussing with Sunan about various initiatives that he's bringing on into his channel. This is really a great platform to learn about the latest skills, be it on project management, Scrum, and other things. So I'm very happy to be here today and sharing my insights, my experiences with you all.
Wonderful, wonderful, Sujata. So, Sujata, if you tell us about yourself in a brief, that would be great. And then we'll start our Q&A. Yeah.
Sure. So currently, I'm working as a program manager in a big data service provider, and we are into SaaS program management. And I have been into this role for, as Stunan also mentioned, like close to 16 years. And I have been working very closely with clients all throughout. And I think program management, it's so dynamic in nature. Every day there are new challenges that brings us to work. So definitely it's very encouraging for me to get into a platform like this and talk about my life's passion, which is program management.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great, Sujata. So, if you allow, shall we start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, the very first question is let's say a critical project milestone is approaching, and but then one of your works team is significantly behind the schedule due to, let's say, some technical challenges. So as a project manager, how would you manage these delays while still ensuring that the overall project stay on the track? Yeah.
Correct. I think as a program manager, the first thing I would say we have to build in is to embrace change. As I was just saying that this is such a kind of a role which is so dynamic in nature. No 2 days are same. So definitely there will be changes that comes into the project, and we have to be ready as part of our mental framework that changes will be there, and we can definitely handle them. So once we are in that kind of a mental framework, it lets us begin the job at the right spirit. So first thing I would say is to analyze the delay as to why actually that delay has happened. Doing a root cause analysis on the delay is like understanding where to start from, or where should I start doing the corrections from. So one very good way is to step back and see back in time what could have been done differently, so that this situation would not have arrived, because there could be multiple ways in which the same situation can be handled. So what I do in my in these kind of situations is to step back and look at it, where to correct it from, and there could be many options, and list down those options and see to it that we look very carefully in each of these options, like the options to take a corrective action, the pros and the cons of each action. Now, I definitely say that program managers do not work in silos, in individual capacity. It's always they're surrounded by a very strong team. So I do take help of the team. So I would suggest that do not shy away in these kind of situations to take help of your team members, because the best guidance can also come from them, right? So leverage your team members around you, talk to them about what are the options that you are thinking of and the pros and cons, and make a collective input about what are the possibilities that you see as a collective option that you have. And once you understand, talking to the SMEs, talking to your team, and also based on your experience, that is when you can maybe prioritize upon the first key two options that you can leverage to correct the deadline. So once you have a very well informed decision, it gives you the confidence that yes, probably this is the right way forward, so once you're doing this meticulously, it gives you that also the confidence to go out and talk to your stakeholders that yes, although there is a change in the deadline, or there is a sequence of events that had caused this shift in the deadline, but this is my corrective plan. So it looks like very professional, that yes, this program manager has come onto the table to discuss a solution, not just merely talking about the problems. So it will be much more welcomed, and people, the stakeholders who are there, they will also be more keen to understand that yes, somebody is talking about the solution to get back on the timeline. And with this kind of a approach, one very key important thing is that as a program manager, you have to stay involved very keenly throughout the different stages of your project. So unless you are very much involved into the project, it's very difficult to take control of the project. So I always suggest, and I have always seen this works brilliantly, that if you are very much deeply involved in the day-to-day task of your project, definitely it gives you an edge when you are taking these kind of decisions. So it will be very useful for you to manage these kind of crisis situations if you are well informed, and if you are taking these decisions confidently, you're going ahead and talking to the stakeholders, and making sure that you whatever you're offering as a solution is actually based on say a data driven approach, talking to all your SMEs or around your team. And you will also be having the trust and faith of your team members that yes, these are the possible good options that you have as a correction plan. So I think if you can follow some of these things, it is definitely going to be very effective. And I think these are also some of the things that I follow in my work, and I have seen that this definitely helps us to make some corrections whenever there are these kind of crisis situations.
Wonderful, Sujata. Yeah, I really like the way you have just, step by step, you have explained everything. So I have to just summarize the key points for me. First one is evaluate the impact, understand the root cause, reprioritize and reallocate your resources. And then, of course, you have to update your plan. You have to adjust the project schedule with some realistic timelines for delayed work team. And then you have to engage the stakeholders. So you have to keep your stakeholders informed about the situation, revise timelines, and of course, you definitely going to plan your mitigation. And next thing which you mentioned about, I think we have to monitor our progress closely, maybe on a day-to-day basis, and different checkpoints and different daily updates and things like that, which we can, convey. And lastly, I think you mentioned about monitoring and implementing the contingencies, where we can always review and activate any applicable contingency plans with which we have written with respect to the mitigation risk for other work streams. So I think you have summarized it. You have just mentioned each and every point with respect to this answer. Wonderful, Sujata. Thank you. Shall we move on?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, let's say you are your one of your project is halfway, and you have already used, let's say, 70% of your allocated budget, and now the client has no flexibility in increasing the budget, right? Now, what steps would you take to manage the remaining work within the existing budget? Because 50% you are already there, and you have already consumed more of your budget. So 30% is already more. So how you're going to manage this challenging budget situation?
Yeah, so I think this is a good segue from what we just discussed in the earlier question. about having keen involvement, looking at all the possibilities what are there in the project, having a strong I can say well knit team along with you, having those kind of open conversations, everything builds together actually. So I always believe that when you are having a good stakeholder relationship, it always helps you through and takes you towards the successful the outcome of the project. So even in these kind of situations where you have some difficulties with the maintaining a good budget, I would say going back to the stakeholders with transparency and honesty is the first thing. So as soon as you encounter a situation like that, my honest suggestion is that be transparent, be honest with the stakeholder that this is the kind of situation in hand. But at the same time, as I was saying, that you should also be prepared with a plan. What is your plan B? Okay, this is a situation, all correct, but then what is the program manager bringing onto the table as a solution to encounter these kind of challenges? So yes, we need to be transparent and honest with our stakeholders, but at the same time prepare your plan B as to what are the things. Now again, to prepare the plan B, the first thing I suggest is to look into the priorities of tasks that are there in hand. There could be possible that some of the tasks which are of high priority and needs to be mandatorily closed within that budget. So identify those tasks and prioritize them so that at least those tasks will be completed so that the project is still moving in a successful direction. So look into the task. I'm sure by now you will be having a detailed breakdown structure, work breakdown structure of your project. Look into that minutely and understand and prioritize which are the tasks that are of critical importance and it's a mandatory to be delivered. Again, at the same time, you can also identify the critical path in your project. Means if there are any tasks which have dependency on other tasks and can, because of that task there can be severe delays in the project, so identify the critical path and make sure that in your rest of the budget those critical paths are definitely covered. So once you have secured these priority tasks, this critical path, then you should be in a better position to handle the budget, because definitely it otherwise it will impact the overall success of the project, leave alone the budget. So now once you have that confidence that yes, I know what are the tasks to be prioritized and what are the critical path, the second thing is to understand which are like cost heavy tasks but not really very heavy in terms of the quality requirements. So quality plays again a very significant importance, and I have also experienced this in my work, that sometimes we overlook the importance of quality. Sometimes we are so keen on proving the quality of certain tasks that may not be so effective in the overall success of the project. But because we are focusing so much on the quality, maybe we are including high cost software licenses, which is not really needed. We could have done it with a open source software, but we are encountering more budget because we are trying to prove more quality for that particular software licenses. So find for those opportunities where you can still deliver similar quality of task even without having high cost or high quality initiatives. So this will actually impact the overall budget if you are able to identify that. But then again, before making those certain kind of changes, be sure that you are taking your stakeholders into confidence. Now you need to take this changes before implementing to your team members, so they are also able to accept and be comfortable with these changes which are being made. Because ultimately it could be possible that your team members are actually using these kind of different softwares to produce the same kind of deliverables, and we don't want to unnecessarily go wrong with the ecosystem. So before you make those changes, based on which you are trying to manage the budget, make sure you have informed and you have discussed well in advance with your stakeholders as to what is your plan and why do you think these kind of changes in the work ecosystem is going to help with the budget. So I think again, a very data driven approach, understanding your tasks which are critical, in critical path, which are highly prioritized, as well as looking into the software systems that can be open source and can reduce this budget, can play a very important role when you are doing this planning. And as I was saying in my a while back, that you need to be really keenly involved in the project. So as and when you work through the project and you see these outliers, like, yes, if I'm not taking a step right now, maybe my budget is going to overshoot. So as soon as you identify these kind of situations, as a program manager, it is very, very important that we foresee these situations and start taking the corrective actions then and there. Don't wait. We should not wait for the situations to arrive and then take a step back and see what we need to do. So as a seasoned program manager, we should be able to foresee things coming in and start taking those kind of
So to be
actions.
proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a very, very important skill of a program manager, and of course, this comes with experience. This comes with, that engagement that I was talking about. So, and if you're well informed, you will easily pick those situations that, hey, I think there's a red flag. I can see from far it's getting nearer, and I need to do certain things, because ultimately, if the red flag is too near, we are the people who will be in trouble very soon. So
Okay,
definitely, yes, it's very important to see these flags, I mean, way ahead, and
correct.
start taking those corrective actions so that we don't land up in having these kind of deviations than from what we are should be.
Yeah, understood, Sujata. Yes. And I think this question is more, let's say the project is already into trouble and then you have joined. So then maybe what you will do now, because you cannot, you have to be now reactive, so maybe that's the this question is about. And I just want to add one or two more small things, though you have covered everything. You mentioned about assessment, right? So of course we have to initially we have to analyze where all this budget has been spent so far in our project. If let's say I'm joining first time in a new project, so we can identify different areas of overspending, and maybe we can pinpoint few tasks or the activities that can be optimized or revised, right?
Mhm.
And you already have covered about the resource, how to optimize the resource. Of course we can reallocate our resources to ensure that they has been used efficiently. Now
Mhm.
sometimes what happened that especially I have seen over here, we have a lot of subcontractors and different external consultant in our team, so we can assess their contribution. If
Mhm.
their task can be redistributed among our in-house team members without impacting the quality for sure, then maybe we can think about reducing those subcontractors. Maybe we can also cross train our team members to handle some overlapping responsibilities. That is also going to give us some additional resources in that way. And you have already covered about I think open source solutions, and maybe we can adopt more virtual and hybrid work models where we can rely more on our virtual meetings to save some time on travel, lodging, and other related costs. So yeah, that's something which I just thought to add on top of it.
Mhm.
Okay, so if we are good, shall we move ahead?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the next one is during project review, you identify a potential risk that could cause a delay of several weeks for your project. Now, this risk is not immediate, but if it happen, it will definitely going to impact the project timelines. So, what steps would you take to mitigate this risk proactively? The thing we are discussing just now. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I think again, risk is a topic that is very close to program managers, and they're very comfortable talking about this than I think anybody else. I've seen they do not hesitate away from discussing about risk, and I mean there are ways definitely to handle them. So they start planning about the risk, how to handle, and all of that. So I would say that definitely any project, any program that we do definitely involves a lot of risks, and we as a program manager we are able to handle these risks from time to time. So I think the first thing is, as a program manager, as a project manager, we should have that ability to understand the risk, and also be able to take it to a very comfortable position, and not shy away from identifying or handling this kind of risk situations, because this is definitely a very integrate part of the project, and every project will have that. The more we deal with this kind of risks day to day, it's almost like flexing our muscles and handling getting that experience to handle more and more better projects, complex projects from day to day. So I would like to open up this conversation on risk, to make it more comfortable, and people should not be scared that okay, this risk is looking very scary and it might impact the project. I think with proper planning and proper analysis of the risk, all these risks can be very surely mitigated. Now, coming to your point, that if we have flagged the risk, I think that is a very positive point, that we have already seen something coming up in the future. But yes, at the same time, once we have, this is the first step of risk management, that identifying the risk. So yes, that's a tick mark in the checklist, that yes, we have identified the risk. Now, what after identifying the risk, what should we do once we know that yes, there is a problem here? I would say that the second thing is to understand what is going to be the impact of it. So sometimes it happens that we know there is a risk, but we don't know what is going to be the impact. What is it? How bad or how big is that impact? So usually when we are doing these kind of project planning, I would say that there is it's as part of the good practices, we have some kind of budget kept for these kind of risk management. So to secure these kind of situations, we should as a good practice, we should keep some budget allocated for handling these kind of known risk or unknown risk. Now from this question, it seems like it is some kind of a known risk that is that we can see approaching us. So now we know this risk is there. We know that okay, we might not be knowing about how it is going to impact the project. So let us prepare to handle the risk if it at all occurs. So this particular step is called the risk mitigation or risk handling, risk avoidance. So there could be multiple ways in which we can actually handle this. There could be situations in the project which will tell, okay, totally avoid this risk. For example, if you are having a vendor and you find that okay, there seems to be an organizational level risk to that vendor, and we have outsourced our work to this vendor, right? So and you might see that this could be a potential risk that could be impacting my project. So at the same time, I'm sure you can find out some other equally skilled vendors, and you can start preparing that okay, if this risk really materializes, then I have a plan B of putting another vendor in place, and I can shift that risk totally from that particular from my existing vendor to a new vendor, so that I can still secure my project, and the organizational turbulence that the vendor was going through will not completely impact my project. So start about thinking about the ways in which these kind of risk can be mitigated. There could be risk, for example, that okay, that if the project is going to be, say, 3 months, and you know that your very important team member who is very crucial for the project success has already asked for certain days of leave, and this is actually going to impact the overall project timeline, then how do you if you can able to see this, that yes, foresee this, that yes, this risk might happen, in that case we need to see what is the alternate to mitigate it. Like this, for this kind of a situation, start thinking about which are the alternate team members. Do you need additional team members from other team to join your team? It could be possible that you start preparing the new team member by shadowing the work, so that that leave of absence is actually not going to impact the success of the project. So I would say that there are multiple ways in which we can eliminate the risk. It could be in terms of the resources that we are working on, it could be in terms of some vendors that we are working on, and other situations in IT, companies also. It could be related to some hardware component. It could be like delivery of the hardware component not on time. It could be delivery of the the software that I mean, you are dependent on another software, and that delivery is getting delayed. So every risk that you foresee should have a plan B, and that is what the preparation it will take, so that that risk is actually not impacting your own project. So looking at the risk, call it out, discuss it with your team about what could be a potential team B, and also try and come up with a risk plan management document, so that you are comfortable as to, if these are the risks that is going to happen, then what is my plan B, and is the ecosystem able to handle the plan B, because that also has to have a real outcome from the plan B. So I think this is how I would suggest that we should look or approach the risk management area. I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sujata. You have given an elaborated answer. So I don't want to add anything over here. So if you okay, let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
Okay. So next question is again, I think it's pretty common and it's asked several times that let's say you are in between your project and then the client requests some additional features that were not part of your original scope, and your timeline and budgets are already very tight. So how you are going to manage these kind of situation? And it happen a lot of time in real project as well, and this question is asked several times in many interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is like a everyday situation. I mean, I don't think any project goes by without having additional features. Even when we go out in a market to buy something, we will also try to see that, can I get this also in the product? Like that. So yes, definitely this is a very close to reality, or a real situation that we have to encounter. I think what I do for the first thing that I do is understand about that requirement very clearly, as to what is exactly that additional feature requirement, as in what is that say the client trying to get out of this requirement. Okay, and then understanding one thing is understanding from the client on the requirement. The other thing is, if at all this requirement needs to be delivered, then what is the impact on the overall product, I mean the project timeline. So is it something like a just a extension of the addition of the feature, or is it a completely new feature? If it's an extension, then whether it is something that can be accommodated along with the plan, or it's even for a small feature, small extension, it is going to skew up the cost, or it is going to skew up the timeline, or maybe we do not have the additional skills that is required to deliver that additional feature, right? So definitely it will help if we get deep down and we analyze what is the impact that feature is going to bring onto the entire project scope. And once you understand what the client wants from this feature, maybe as a program manager, you need to also understand the stakeholder who is asking for this feature. So because I definitely, I mean, this is like a tip that before making any changes to the project, I definitely go out and check where from this change has come. And how critical is this change to the project success? So, if the client or if the stakeholder has a lot of power and influence on the project, and this requirement is like so critical, then definitely it goes top in the priority list, and then I have to really rework and see how this can be adjusted, and if not adjusted, what is my plan or what is my proposal to provide to deliver this feature. So yes, again I'll repeat that the client, the power and the influence of the project success is really important, because as I said, this is very real life situation, and we start getting many features. As a program manager, do I really need to focus on every additional features that I'm getting in from my client? So that is going to be the decision, a very critical decision as to where I should be focusing on the list of features, or on any features or request that is coming in from. So yes, for example, yes, this is a very critical feature, and I know the stakeholder has a very good, strong power and influence on the project success, and really need to deliver this. Then I go back to the team and see to it, maybe open some, PRDs, the sprint plans, and these documents to see and discuss with the team as to where and how this feature can actually be put in. And for example, the other side of it, that I know that okay, this is not so critical for the customer, or maybe the stakeholder is not so critical in terms of power and influence on the project success, maybe I will consider that feature request, but still I will put it in a little low priority, and maybe I'll go back and propose for a phase 2 where this feature will be covered. And so how do we approach to this additional feature request? All depends upon, as I said, understanding the feature, and from which client or which position of power and influence this has come. And now if I have to really deliver, I'll sit down with the team to see what does this impact in, and prepare a proposal saying, okay, if I have to add this feature, maybe I will need, say, some kind of a software, or some kind of a hardware, some kind of a totally different additional product to the main system, or I need, say, another team, say a data analyst, to do this kind of finding and then take the next step. So whatever the additional requirement this feature is bringing on, for that I need to make a proposal to and take it back to the client, so that they can decide for themselves if they're okay to open up the scope, or to open up the timeline, or to open up the budget. So my work here is to do this entire analysis, a full 360-degree analysis, and put it in front of the client to make sure what is now their decision going to be, because ultimately the project success, ultimately the project that I am delivering is for the client. So if they're okay in extending the deadline and having this critical feature, so definitely it will make sense for me to come back and edit the plan, and accommodate this feature. And so I would say, if yes, it is so highly critical and prioritized, then I'll go back with my proposal with a full view of what it entails if we at all have to deliver this feature and put it in front of the client. That's all.
Wonderful, wonderful, Sujata. I'm thoroughly enjoying the way you are explaining each and everything. Wonderful. So, shall we move ahead?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad
Okay.
to know
So,
that this is making
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
I'm able to
Yes,
completely.
wonderful. Yes, yes, definitely. And I'm sure, like, whoever is watching, you will see their comment later on. So I'm sure you will get some great comments. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. And the next question is: that's your project team is keep on missing the milestones, the deadlines, and things like that. And your stakeholders are now very much concerned about the performance of your team, and they are worried about their and deliverables. So what matrices would you implement to track the team performance, and how would you use these matrices to improve the project outcome? Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, first thing is that when you say that the project is missing the deadlines, I definitely, as a program manager, I will definitely try to see that from where these missing deadlines are coming into the picture. Is it because of the anything to do with the team, because you mentioned about the performance also. So is it anything to do with the skill level, anything to do with the number of resources, anything to do with the the ecosystem, the infrastructure they have, which is actually not so much conducive enough for them to perform at their best. So definitely it means that I'll go back and check as to what could have been done better, because as a program manager I believe that I am the enabler for the project success, right? So I have to make sure that the team has everything that can be provided with under the scope and budget and everything, so that they are successful. So I am definitely responsible for that. And if there is something that is missing out here, then what is it missing? And based on the number of people they are working on, so metrics like how many work hours everybody is putting, is there somebody who is highly having too much of overages or too much of workload, because of that gradually the performance has gone down? Or is it something that the skill is not mapped to whatever the deliverables are? Is it that maybe we need more database server skills, but we are not having that enough? So is it so basically mapping the skill and the competency of the team is very much crucial if we are able to find that this is a performance issue due to which the deadlines are missing out. So, and then of course take a corrective action. So I would say to understand what is the level of performance of the team in terms of the hours that they are able to work, and if the work is also equally distributed across the team, so that there are no burnouts, and also there should not be that people are I mean they are equally given that opportunity in the team to be able to contribute to the project. So if further resources need to be swapped, like if I have more resources for the skills that I do not need, but say I need more of Python developers and I have a lot of C, so I can try to reform my team to see that the performance and the competency is actually a correct or a good mix of people that I really need for at least a good performance, and I'm not missing out on the deadlines. Although I would say that these things should be done beforehand when we are planning, because these things are all part of the planning. But if at all we land up in these scenarios, as I always believe in and I do at work, is that as soon as I flag there is a problem in it, I get into the root cause and try to rectify it then and there, rather than waiting for something to become larger.
Great, wonderful, Sujata. Great, enjoying. I'm thoroughly enjoying these sessions with you. Okay,
Same here.
so yeah, so with this, like we are halfway through our session, friends. Whoever is watching, so if you are still here, it means you value our content, and I don't see any reason that why you will not subscribe and motivate us by hitting that like button. Let me take a pause. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and then we move on. Okay, so let's pause for a second. Okay, so now you have done that. Let us move on to our next question. And the next question is on little bit on a conflict management. So let's say there are conflict demands from different stakeholders regarding the project scope. Some want to focus on cost saving measures. Then there are a few people who are pushing for a high quality product that of course will require more time and resources. So how you are going to balance between these stakeholders and make a decision that balance all these triple constraint?
Yeah, right. Again, I think as a program manager, this is a very, 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 regular kind of a situation that we come across. Because like there are so many different I can say departments, teams that we have to work with, and they all have very specific requirements to their own team, and they're very varied, definitely. So we have to I mean, since this project is for the client, and we cannot really upset them, so we think that, okay, now how do I manage, because I don't want to upset the client. In that case, how do I then approach this situation? I think the I mean, as I was saying about the, how to handle the stakeholders, because this situation is very, very closely linked with engaging or really understanding the stakeholders, right? Because these demands, these kind of requests that are coming in from the stakeholders. So these are not due to some kind of system going wrong. These are human. So managing human in the project, in the program, is really, really critical, and it will need a lot of understanding of the people that you are working with. It Right now we are talking about the stakeholders, external, meaning like the client facing people who have come to you with the hope that yes, you will be granting whatever wish list that they have come up with. But then as a program manager, you know that if you start accommodating all these kind of lists, your triple constraints are going to go totally messed up. Then how do you do, and what do you do? So I would say that it is very, very important to start beginning understanding the stakeholders. So what I do is I create a stakeholder map, meaning I first identify who are my stakeholders when I work in a project. Then if these stakeholders, what is their role in the organization, what is again the power and the influence. So once I have this whole map in front of me, immediately gives me that opportunity to understand that, okay, if how they're interlinked also. Like if I have to take a stakeholder and see that, okay, because that person has more power and influence on the project success, then I need to consider, if he's giving me five a list of requirements, are these going to be very crucial for me? Is this something that I need to really focus on? And then how do I match with somebody else's requirements along with these high priority tasks that I have in hand? So looking at the stakeholder map is actually going to give me that direction of prioritization as to how do I prioritize this list of tasks and which is more important for the project success, so that I know that the whole the plan that has been being built for the project, the whole, I would say, I'm not wasting anybody's energy here by rushing into something which is not important and which is actually not going to take me to the project success. Because ultimately, as a program manager, I need to make sure the project is successful, and it is successful within the limits of the triple constraints, right? So I cannot take decisions which is actually going to mess up with this kind of triple constraints. But at the same time, if I'm getting some requirements from a stakeholder who has higher power and influence, so if at all the triple constraints are getting extended, that person is actually going to support the project success, right? So if the stakeholder with higher power and influence is telling that, for example, additional feature of say a login, okay, that suppose that software did not have a robust login user journey, and now that login user journey needs to be built in with some lots of different security checks, and which was not as part of the initial project. But now, because the stakeholder has come up with this additional requirements, it might need to extend the timelines of the project because a new module has to be built in. But how did I come to this position where I say that yes, it will be delivered, and this is going to be the impact of the extended timeline? Because I know that stakeholder has that power and influence to absorb this extended timeline, because he's going to approve this extended phase of the project. So that's why I began my prioritization from understanding which stakeholder is actually having that higher power and influence on the project. Because if my triple constraints are going to get extended, I will have to go back to the stakeholder and seek approval for, say, an extended budget or an extended timeline. So if we start from understanding from the stakeholder perspective, then I think, and then take the measured steps along the journey as to how to accommodate the additional requirements, then we land up in a comfortable position where I see that, those kind of extended constraints are usually approved by the clients, and you, as a program manager, are still able to deliver the, successful outcome of the project. So I think this will give a good outcome to the overall project, even if it was extended.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Sujata, for that. Okay. Let's move on to our next question, which is a little bit tricky, I would say. So let's say your team come up with some innovative solution, but that is based on some unproven technology. And this can potentially reduce your project duration by 30%. And it may also result in a cost saving of, let's say, 15%. But it also has some kind of risk to your scope. So how do you assess and present this option to your stakeholder? Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I would say that yes, such things have come up, because definitely in the IT companies we do see hackathon projects, and these are wonderful projects, and some of them are so good that you want to absorb them in in your own project. That these extremely tech savvy ideas will actually bring in a lot of value. However, for these kind of opportunities, I think it is very much needed that such ideas or such solutions are, at least have gone through a proof of concept, so that we have some data in hand. Like if you have done some, POC with that solution, so you can see some data out of it. Some data will be generated as an outcome of the POC project, based on which you can go back to the stakeholder saying that, look, I have seen this POC project, and this is the outcome of this POC. So suppose I can say that, yes, if I do this, I'm actually saving, say, at least 40 hours, man hours in the project, if I'm using this particular software or I'm using this particular technology. And so why not, let's get started, or let's accommodate, let's adjust or maneuver our project around this kind of a new technology. So I would say something which has been through a POC can be well trusted by the stakeholders. And I definitely support a data-driven approach for decision making. So that gives a lot of confidence in the decision. So having a POC with this kind of new technology areas would be more, I think, appropriate before we directly, put it in the project line, and add some more risk into it. So I would say POC is the way. Yeah.
Yeah, a small thing I just want to add over here, that maybe we can also do a kind of cost benefit analysis, which
Mm.
of course is a part of this. So we can compare our traditional approach with this new technology. That can provide a kind of clear comparison between our, traditional approach with respect to this new technology, and then maybe we can also approach incorporating this new technology within our project. So if we can focus on how this potential saving in time and cost balance against the risk that is going to be introduced by this unproven technology. So that's something which we can wait on. We can do the risk adjustment benefit also, that we can consider the probability and the impact of the risk with respect to this. Because, for example, if there is a, let's say, 30% chance that this particular solution will fail, then we have to weight the potential cost saving and timeline reduction against the likelihood of this scope related issues. So that's something which we can think on. And of course the risk mitigation plan, so we can include a kind of risk mitigation plan that outline that how the risks will be monitored and managed throughout the project. And this could involve having some contingency resources, maybe some additional testing phases, or some clear exit strategy if this particular solution fails. And maybe we
Correct.
can also suggest a kind of phased or an incremental implementation approach, where this particular solution is used just for, let's say, a smaller or a less critical task, and that can maybe reduce the potential impact on the overall scope. So maybe I think this kind of mix and match strategy will, yeah, help us in this particular
Yeah,
kind of scenarios.
absolutely, you're right. In one of my recent projects, there was this, new, I would not say new technology, but a new solution that we implemented. And the best way to, absorb it in the project was to do kind of an A/B testing and make sure that, we have these kind of results right in our hand to say that how much, this new solution is actually going to prove better within the same project. But yes, at the same time, when you are absorbing these new technologies, you have to be very, very, watchful, because this can definitely add more risk into the project and add more steps into the project, add more, I can say, sometimes time and cost to the project. So we need to be watchful as to when we are bringing these new elements. But at the same time, I would say that uh, definitely I do encourage, or I would advocate for bringing in new solutions and not just go by the traditional way. So we need to we need to keep on experimenting things within the limits of our project. And I think that is where a project manager, a program manager, will play a very big role in making those shifts, as you rightly said, from the traditional to the newer tech, or technical environments that we work on. So yes,
Yeah, great, Sujata,
good stuff.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Next question is, let's say your most skilled team member unexpectedly resigned. Your Virat Kohli resigned today. Now this going to put your project at risk, and
Mm.
hiring a replacement will increase the cost. While if you are going try to redistribute this work, it may again going to extend the timelines. So it's a tricky situation. So how we are going to proceed in this kind of, yeah, how we are going to manage these kind of scenarios?
Yes, definitely. These are again, big ticket risk items in the project, because again, the overall timeline and the budget, all these things can be very much impacted with these kind of situations that we hope that it should not come, but yes, it does come across with respect to resources, because we are all human beings, and certain things can even happen with that, like in medical emergencies. This has happened in my projects as well. So I think the as a program manager, I would say that having a strong team built around is very, very important in these kind of situations. uh, when I say having a very strong team, it's not just the interpersonal skills, it's also, when you are a program manager, project manager, you need to build that team spirit, you need to build that skills and efficiency in the team. It's not just about only looking at the project success, it's also about how you are building the team, because in these kind of critical situations, that is going to help you. So for example, if you can see that there are some team members who are, say, interested in moving up in their career in a certain direction, say suppose they know Java, now they know they want to work in some other kind of coding methodologies. So whenever you get a chance, first thing is to know that yes, there are team members who are equally interested to make these kind of um, uh, I can say additional learning additional skills. So provide them these opportunities. So what happens is, when you are cross training them across different technical streams, I would say it could be the coding languages, it could be any other things as well, or the domains or the know-hows, you are building your team, you are building the team strength in terms of the skill set. So when, suppose in these kind of untoward situations, you will always have other team members who are leaning in, who are trying to fill in the gap, so that it's not absolutely that the project falls flat. So having that kind of a right team spirit, having that kind of a connect with the team, having that kind of a approach to build those skills within the team is very important. But yes, there could be situations where, this is not something that you can do overnight. You cannot build the team strength or the team skills overnight, so it has to be made sure that you are doing it over a longer period of time, so what are the key the key strengths and the key weaknesses in terms of the technical skills of your team, and what are your options to bring in any kind of resource of of that kind of a capacity that you wanted to fill in that gap for. So if the team member is leaving, generally also we have some time in hand where we can start doing a shadowing with the team member to make sure that the project know-how or the technical know-how does not remain only with one person, and it is actually distributed to at least more than one person. So when, in absence of a critical resource, there will be at least somebody else who could fit in there. The other thing is that I have seen sometimes, in if you're not having a good documentation, in those situations are also very, very untoward in these kind of criticalities. So if you are able to build a strong documentation, the know-how is only not in the brain of that critical member. It is actually well documented and provides a good context to the other person who is actually stepping in and filling in that gap. So you want to make sure that you are covering in all aspects. So as I said, to recap, maybe make sure you know the technical skills, also the technical interest of your team members. Make sure if you get any opportunity to cross train, definitely take that opportunity. That will also boost the confidence of your team members and also help you to overall improve the competency of the team. The other one is that to make sure that the documentation is done right, so you give a better context to the person who is filling in. And I think, yeah, these are some of the things that I do in my work. So definitely that helps me to to keep these things in some stable form. And this works, this really works. Yeah, over to you, Sunand.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Sujata, for this. And friends, we have still a lot of questions which are remaining, but in the interest of time, I think it's good to close this session now over here, Sujata. So thank you for joining us today. And friends, we hope you found this session helpful. So don't forget to leave a comment, like this video, share with your friends, colleague on LinkedIn, and please give your feedback, because your feedback helps us to create more such valuable content for you. And if you're new here, please subscribe and become a part of our Career Stock family. So thank you, and see you in our next session. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Sujata, one more time.
Thank you, Sunand, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.